Hi everyone, this is Nick from Whole Latte Love, and today we'll be taking a look at the initial setup for the ECM Mechanika V Slim. So before I get started, I did want to mention that this model in particular has the flow control device with the gauge and the knob on the E61 assembly here, but the steps that I cover are actually applicable to both the stock style of this machine and the model with flow control. So let's get into it. Starting off with our accessories, the Mechanika V Slim comes with a handful of tools that will help you brew and maintain your machine. So with our portafilters here, we have both a single and double spout. Now these both have a angled handle, which makes them a little bit easier to lock in, and then they come fitted with a single and double shot basket respectively. So we have a third basket here, this blind one or back flush disc, that we'll use to maintain the group using the back flushing process. The Mechanika V Slim also comes with a tamper, so this has a bakelite handle. It's polished so it matches the plastic elements on the machine, and it's fairly comfortable to hold in your hand. You do have a stainless base that helps ensure a flat and even tamp as well. And for our last accessory, there is a handy group brush that you can use to scrub off stains or stubborn grounds basically that have collected on the shower screen or around the group. But those are the accessories that will come in the box with your machine. One of the first things you really want to consider before putting your espresso machine to some serious use is going to be the quality of your water. Now, not only is that going to affect the taste of your espresso, but long term it can affect the longevity of your investment. Water contains minerals. It's what gives it some of its taste, and it's also what can cause scale buildup inside of espresso machines. Around your house, if you've ever seen buildup, say, on your sink or your shower head or at the bottom of your pots and pans, that's a sign that there's mineral content in your water, and that can also build up inside your machine. You've got a boiler made of metal, you've got metal plumbing, it's very hot in there, and it's a great condition to extract those minerals from the water. Now, that's what these pitchers, filters, and cartridges are here to address, extracting those minerals from water before they make their way into your espresso machine. We at Whole Latte Love recommend a range of products from BWT, who we've partnered with to provide safe solutions for water filtration that ensure not only that you're protecting the longevity of your machine, but also that your water is tasting its best. Let's take a look at some of those options now. One of my favorite water filtration options is the BWT Penguin Pitcher. So this is going to do a couple of things that will benefit your espresso. Now, not only is this filter cartridge going to remove flavor contaminants from the water like chlorine or dirt or fine particles, but it uses the same magnesium exchange technology found in BWT's Bestsave, Bestcup, or Bestmax premium cartridges. What that does is there's an ion exchange that replaces calcium with magnesium. And that magnesium is going to go a long way to improve the flavor of your espresso as well. See, BWT has optimized this for hot beverage preparation, especially for espresso. Now, when it comes to actually maintaining the pitcher and getting that cartridge switched out as needed, the timer on top of this will count the number of fills that you have, and it will remind you when it's time to replace the cartridge. And it's as simple as popping off the top, putting in a new cartridge, and you're good to start filling again. The Bestsave filter pouch is another great affordable filtration option from BWT. Now, unlike things like the Bestcup or Bestmax Premium, this is not connected to the water line of your machine or to the water inlet. Instead, this pouch simply floats in the tank, passively softening the water and removing contaminants. That makes it very straightforward to use, but with a caveat. This filter will require you to leave it in the water that you're going to brew with for 8 to 10 hours in order for that filtration to take effect. Then your water will be safe to use for brewing. So if you want something like this that's affordable but takes a little bit more time, the best case scenario would be fill your tank at night and allow the Bestsave to do its job so your water is ready for you to use in the morning. Now, as far as the fills go, BWT does recommend that for this filter pouch in particular, on a reservoir that's about 3.5 liters, you can get close to 30 full reservoir fills, but that is going to come down to the hardness of your water. So you also want to make sure that you're replacing this filter pouch every 2 months to protect yourself from anything that might grow in the filter if it sits in your tank for too long. So in front of me here, I've got a BWT Bestcup filtration system, and I'm going to go over how to install this into the water reservoir for an ECM vibration pump machine. This is a product that you should not use with a ECM rotary pump machine, as the pump draw can be increased through pulling water straight through this filter cartridge, and it can actually damage the lifespan of the pump. So use a BWT Bestsave or a Bestmax Premium if you want to filter water for a rotary pump ECM machine. So what we've got here is our filter cartridge actually, and then our filter cartridge adapter. This adapter is what's going to allow us to actually connect the filter into the water line that's being pulled from the reservoir. So all we want to do is go ahead and take our suction cup here, and we can fit that right on the bottom of the adapter. That's going to stick that to the bottom of the tank. And then for our tube here, we'll slip that right on over this angled fitting. And it's got some ribbing, so I would say maybe over the first rib down to the second one, we'll get you a nice secure seal on that. So that's how we would prepare our adapter. Now I'll show you how to put it into the tank. Now I'm going to show you how you can connect the Bestcup adapter to the water inlet at the bottom of the reservoir. We'll simply go ahead and guide the silicone tube over that metal inlet to securely attach the adapter. And as you can see, I've attached the adapter. You really kind of do it by feel. You can feel once the tube is secure that you've got the adapter connected. Now, what I want to do is get the adapter itself into the correct position here. So this is where I'm going to need a little bit of, I would say, filter cartridge artistry. But you can see how I've got the adapter kind of facing toward the corner. There's the water inlet for the adapter that's actually right in this corner at the lowest point in the tank, so that way we're always able to draw in water without having the tank be too low. All we want to do now is take our filtration cartridge and fit it onto the adapter. So I'm going to go ahead and push that down, and I've given myself enough room, and I'll give you a little trick on how to check to make sure that you've done it properly. But simply guide that in, push down firmly, and then if you can flip the reservoir upside down and the filter doesn't come out, you know that your seal is good. So then you're simply going to put this back into the machine, and water will now be drawn through your filter cartridge. If you have properly secured the adapter, to replace the cartridge, all you'll need to do is reach into the reservoir and pop that out. Then put the new cartridge in to replace it, and that's how you'd maintain your Bestcup system. If you opt not to use a water filter in your machine, you're going to need to prepare to descale it. So in a nutshell, that's using a calibrated acid to break down the minerals that build up in your machine. This Durgal Swiss espresso descaling solution is something just like that. What you do is you dilute the solution and run it through the machine. There are risks associated with this, however, and you may find in your machine's manual that the manufacturer recommends against it. Regardless of how you choose to maintain your machine, the descaler should be run through at regular intervals to prevent large quantities of scale from building up. If you have waited a long time between descaling cycles, you can free up loose pieces of calcium and other minerals and have them ultimately block passages inside the machine. So make sure that if you are going to descale, you use a product that is calibrated for espresso machines, and certainly don't use vinegar. For our first step with the Mechanika V Slim, let's go ahead and get some water in there. Now, if you are using one of the water filtration options I outlined, that's great. Otherwise, let's just take a look at what we would want to do. So first, simply remove the cup tray and then remove the reservoir. First time use, you'll always want to thoroughly rinse the reservoir before filling it with any water that you'll draw into the machine. And per ECM's suggestions, you will want to run 2 to 3 full tanks of water through the machine before brewing. That's just to make sure that all of the internal plumbing in the boiler have been thoroughly rinsed before you make your espresso. So I'm going to go ahead and rinse this reservoir, fill it up, and I'll be right back. With our reservoir thoroughly rinsed, I can go ahead and set it down into the machine. And I will do a closer look at some of the gauges and lights on the front of the machine, but once you have that reservoir in, you're actually safe to go ahead and flip the switch. So our green light is on, and we can hear the pump begin to run. So that green LED, that's the power light, and then the orange LED is the water level light. So the machine will actually automatically draw water into the boiler, which you can hear it doing right now, to fill that up. And so this is something that the machine will do regularly, especially as you do things like steaming that evacuate a large quantity of water from the boiler. That pump is going to run until the boiler is filled with water, at which point the heating element will begin to heat the machine. So this machine does have a powerful 1400 watt heating element and will heat up to be ready to brew in about 15 minutes, though we recommend waiting about 20 to 25 minutes to allow your portafilter and group to reach ideal temperature. Now that our machine is filled with water and the boiler is filled as well, let's go ahead and take a look just at how we would operate it and how you can interpret the different lights, gauges, and switches that we have on the front of the machine. So starting off down here in the bottom left, this is our power switch that simply powers the machine on and off. The green light is our power light, and then the orange light is the water level light. So if that ever turns off, you know that there is not enough water in the machine's reservoir in order for the heating element to be turned on. So there's a float sensor inside the reservoir that tells the machine if there's enough water. That means that it's safe for the heating element to be active without a risk of burning out the boiler. We've got a couple of pressure gauges on this machine. We have 3, including the flow control, but the stock model has on the left here a steam pressure gauge, so that reports the pressure inside the steam boiler. So we have a very large boiler in this machine that's primarily heating up for steam, and then a small tube on the inside that's heated for brew. Now, with this gauge, you can see if there's enough pressure, say for instance, to start dispensing steam or hot water with either of the 2 wands that we have. Now, you'll see this needle begin to rise as the machine heats. Typically, it should idle around 1.25 to 1.5 bar, depending on where you set the pressure stat. So these 2 knobs right here, these open and close the steam and hot water valves. So Vapore here, that's for steam. Aqua is for water. You would simply open up one of these valves to dispense its contents. And now, again, you dispense hot water strictly through the hot water wand, and you dispense steam through the steam wand. But both use the pressure inside the boiler to do that. So if you don't have pressure reported on your steam gauge, you're not going to be able to dispense either. So our gauge here on the right, that's our brew pressure gauge. And so basically that's reporting pressure while brewing so that you can tell if you've achieved the proper 9 bar for your extraction. This gauge right here on the front is going to report that same pressure, but right here at the group, very close to the portafilter, to help report changes in pressure as you make adjustments to your flow. For our E61 group here, we have our lever, which will actuate a small switch located in the back, which triggers the pump for brewing. The key difference, though, is that when you flip this lever up, you're actually also going to be shutting a valve here and opening one here so that water can flow through the group. This is the solenoid on the E61, and so what happens is pressure and water gets relieved through this duct once this lever is brought back down. And that covers the switches, gauges, and lights on the Mechanika V Slim. For our last bit in our interface segment here, I'll show you the OPV adjustment screw. So as I mentioned, similar to the Classica PID from ECM, the Mechanika V Slim has an externally accessible OPV adjustment screw. So the OPV is a valve that stands for overpressure valve, if you're curious, that controls how much water actually reaches the group from being pumped from the boiler. And you can use that to actually adjust the pressure of that water that's coming to the group. Now, stock, we set these to 10 bar, and if you're ever curious about how to check what the pump pressure is currently set to, we can go ahead and use our blind filter basket. So let's take our portafilter here, And with the backflush disc blind filter basket, line it up with one of these tabs, and you can pop out that basket. So simply pop that in and lock that into the group. There's a handy little compartment underneath the drip tray where you can store your extra baskets or the backflush disc. Now that we have this locked in, when I flip the switch, we'll see our gauges for the brew group here for the flow control, and then also the brew pressure gauge here go up, and we've got this reaching 10 here, and so we've got it now to 10, maybe a little lower. This gauge will be a bit more reactive than the one right here. But so the 10 bar pressure is what's going to help you get a 9 bar extraction pressure at the group, which we recommend for espresso. So what you can do though is using either a flathead screwdriver, something like a dime or a penny coin, you can adjust the OPV and you can change that pressure. Now we recommend that if you really want to experiment with a variable kind of like this, that you consider something like the flow control device and leave the pressure at a fixed setting. But that's how you'd use the OPV and how you could adjust brew pressure on your machine.